If you've ever wondered why the FPS genre has been shrinking in terms of variety over the last decade, well, you're not alone. It seems as if everyone and their aunt has been trying to chase the next big money-spinning shooter trend year after year, whether it's the Battle Royale craze instigated by Fortnite, the hero shooter hoo-ha started by Overwatch, or the extraction format popularized by games like Escape from Tarkov and The Hunt Showdown, including tentpole franchises like Call of Duty and Battlefield. In short, we've been getting fewer Titanfall 2s and more Concords. But who is to blame for this dearth of imagination in the AAA shooter space? Well, a new FPS title that zoomed to over 300,000 wishlists on Steam may have just given us the answer, and it's a doozy. That game is Wardogs, an independently developed Battlefield-like massive lobby shooter with a meta economy where every life has a cost and every move becomes a gamble. The team behind the game released a dev video on their early access and future content plans just this week, and in it they gave a really candid look into how the game came to be and one of the big roadblocks they had in bringing it to fruition and preventing it from being corrupted into some kind of battle royale extraction shooter hero game hoo-ha bland slop blah 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 blah. We've seen it all before, and yeah, we're gonna go into all this right now. I'm Ewan and I'm joined by my fellow hound dog.
I was kind of a dog.
Josh Brown.
Hi.
That was really good.
Thank you. I was really practicing that while you were doing your lovely intro monologue.
My big excuse for wanting to do this video is because I really wanted to get the going on, you know, a little war dog. Again, your war dog going.
That was quite scrappy do of you, actually.
Yeah, it's a little, it's a little guy. But yeah, you've caught up on the Wardogs thing right now. We're both subscribed to your favorite FPS YouTuber and mine, Jack Frags.
Yeah.
Great kind of breakdown of the early access dev diary thing that the team for Wardogs put out earlier this week. And I think it's interesting because I'm a big not big Milsim guy, but I enjoy Milsim games. I love tactical shooters a lot. Wardogs isn't really, from what I've seen so far, particularly my cup of tea, I think, because of the meta economy aspect of the game, which seems, I could unlock an uncut gems kind of relationship with a video game, which is probably not going to be good for me. But it's very, very interesting and undeniably unique, and I kind of wanted to glean your thoughts on the overall situation with the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, 100% I'm with you in terms of the meta game, which I'll get to in a bit, but just when you look at the title, like you said, it's a Battlefield-like. You've got elements of destruction. You've got 99-player lobbies, I think they said. A bigger emphasis on teamwork than something like a Battlefield 6, but not quite at the level of punishing Milsim realism.
They had a really good spectrum graph where they kind of put it in between. They had Call of Duty and Battlefield at the very left.
Yeah.
And you had like Armor Reforger and Hell Let Loose and Escape from Tarkov towards the right. They kind of put it in between Battlefield and Armor, but more towards the Armor side.
Yeah, which is music to my ears personally. Like, that's the perfect balance for me. I love the more Milsim heavy approach of your Tarkovs, of your Hell Let Looses, but because I primarily play it solo with a little bit of team play, this seems more up my street, where there is a bigger emphasis on team play than currently there is in Battlefield. I like the changes that they've made to, for instance, the spawn system, where you don't just get the chance to spawn on your squad, you have to, spawn back in, get a helicopter, or make your way back to your team to give them support, and that puts more emphasis, I think, on other roles. You can go into this game from the looks of things and be a pilot, a non-aggressive pilot, be someone ferrying the team around to different locations.
Supplies everywhere.
Exactly, just be a transport pilot. Just live out your best dream, avoiding avoiding rockets, avoiding getting blown out of the sky, and helping your team in that way. I think the gameplay itself, in terms of the gunplay, looks nice and responsive. Definitely Battlefield-esque. I like that they're still, incorporating more Milsim elements like the bullet drop, the bullet penetration, the bullet ricochets, which I thought were very fun. The handling looks pretty weighty as well, as you would expect from something inspired by Armor and whatnot. So all of that stuff, the visuals, the map design, the actual gunplay, it all looks very tasty. And if you are a subscriber to the What Culture Gaming podcast, you'll hear me bang on all the time about the word friction in games. I love it. I love it when you have that element of challenge. So it was genuine music to my ears when I was watching the dev diary.
Use that word a lot.
The Jack Frags video, and the developers that was like the word of the entire thing. They were talking about how, if you put friction in a shooter or a multiplayer game these days, the big publishers get scared, the big money people get scared because they don't want people bouncing off. They want to make it accessible to everyone, whereas here the emphasis is on that element of challenge. And I just think, for me, Battlefield 6 in particular, I really love that game. It's missing that element of friction that some of the previous installments had, and it is way more forgiving in that regard, which definitely opens it up. But I like that this is a game where the devs are literally saying, look, it's not going to be for everyone, but the people it's for, they hopefully will resonate with it.
I totally agree. That is music to my ears as well. I think I've said for a while that I do have that frustration with a lot of games where I feel like the concern really is wanting to empower the player. And when you get to that level of empowerment where, you know, it kind of gets to a point where, certainly in a shooter game as well, where it kind of erases your identity. You think of something like a Battlefield where back in the day there was a hallowed class system and you really had to play to each class's strengths. Whereas now, you know, they've got open weapons. You can basically do whatever you want. You can become a self-supplying freak on the battlefield if you want to, which is really kind of, you know, made me fall out of love with the franchise and certainly kind of anxious about its future. But it's really, really refreshing, I think, and so validating as well. This game has over 300,000 wish lists on Steam. There are console releases planned as well. I do believe that Team 17 is involved as a publisher as well. Team 17 obviously took over, acquired Hell Let Loose from Black Matter, and I've been shepherding that game. We've got Hell Let Loose Vietnam coming out later this year as well. It's just super, super refreshing to see the kind of conversation drivers in the FPS space. It is coming from these niche kind of aspects of the subgenre. And, you know, again, I just want to shout out kudos to Jack Frags for, you know, constantly spotlighting these games. I've discovered so many fascinating experiences via his content, like Hell Let Loose. Again, I would never have found out about that unless I'd been watching his videos. And
great,
you know, it's just really great to see that coming here again. I do want to mention as well, you mentioned the dev diary talking about the aspects of friction, how that is causing an anxiety towards publishers. And I think it's great that, you know, Team 17 have kind of come out again with something like a, you know, like they did with Hell Let Loose. They've gone, this has got a very passionate, we've noticed a gap in the market here where someone's made this kind of really immersive, authentic shooter experience, because the other main franchises like a Battlefield, like a Call of Duty, have vacated that space. And with War Dogs, they've seen the same gap and they're going, let's lock in.
Yeah.
And I do think it's just so refreshing to have that transparency and honesty to be like, well, when we were initially approaching, you know, investors or money people to have a look at War Dogs, but the main concern they kept coming back with us was, have you considered Battle Royale? Have you considered, you know, making it an extraction shooter or whatever? Because those are the big trends. Those are the things that the money people have been told to look out for. And I think it's very indicative. And, you know, obviously you could probably look at this from years ago and go, well, obviously it is the big, you know, business people who are chasing these trends, but it is kind of both refreshing, exciting, and a little bit dispiriting to have this come from developers themselves, basically being like, we want to make these unique experiences, but there are fewer and fewer publishers willing to take that chance and develop something that is unique within that space. I think it's kind of, you know, it lays bare, and I'm going to use the word cowardly here, lays bare the kind of cowardly nature of the games industry right now, whereas I genuinely think if someone came to a publisher like Ubisoft right now, like, we're going to do Splinter Cell.
Yeah.
And imagine, like, the stealth genre hadn't really been done before. They would look at that now and go, that's a bit risky.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like things that should have been, you know, innovative and maybe, like, sure, interesting games, now it's become, well, we can't do that because the trends data shows that we need to push something in a certain direction. That kind of lack of ambition, lack of endeavor, lack of adventure. And the producer for War Dogs, Joe Brammer, did take to X to say as well, but quote, making a tactical shooter is hard because corporate publishers and spreadsheet brains, which I really appreciate because I hate spreadsheets. So I'm glad that spreadsheet people took some strays there. Spreadsheet brains still do not get it. So yeah, there is further elaboration there. Basically, yeah, the main thing that we've had a difficulty in making War Dogs, you know, get to the public.
Yeah.
Has been that roadblock, that prohibitive roadblock of people in suits, people with money brain going, hey, it's not Battle Royale. Can you put brain rot in your game? It has not got brain rot. We don't want it.
Listen, I'm with you on everything you just said, and try to not echo all of the great points you just made. I will just say, like, I love the candor of the dev diary itself. Listen, the game, it's hopefully not, but the game itself might come out, it might be terrible. I hope it's not going to. It looks really good, but I can still appreciate the way they're talking about it. Like you said, that openness about pitching one of these games to the big publishers and being, having that experience be so draining and dispiriting. One of my favorite parts of the dev diary was where they were just so open about what the game needs to succeed in terms of player base. They said, like, look, we know it's not for everyone. We're not aiming for 100,000 concurrent players every single day. We don't need to hit that level. They said, if we have 5,000 to 10,000 dedicated players
Like
who are
in Hell
logging
Let
on.
Loose.
Exactly. Hell Let Loose is one that they, spotlighted. If we have that dedicated player base, we can be a success. And I think in the modern era, that is so interesting because publishers are wanting like those high numbers that are logging on every single day. And we're as guilty as anyone else for reporting on games when they don't hit that level. Look at Marathon. We're currently in a situation where we're all wondering if that game is a success or not because it's only getting like 60, 70,000 concurrents every single day, where you would expect a publisher like Sony and a developer like Bungie to reach the level of an Arc Raiders at the very least, but aim for Call of Duty numbers or Battlefield 6 numbers. And to get just a studio coming out to say, no, this is the target, we're trying to be realistic, we're not shooting for the moon, we're not trying to be overly ambitious and get this on every single machine going and having people log on and trying to figure out ways to do that. We're catering to the people who are going to care and hopefully make it as best of an experience as we possibly can for them.
And it's also interesting, I think, you've got that thing, the long-term driver of success there being a core player base that is logging in regularly, not for fear of missing out, but because they actually want to participate in the game's mechanics, the game systems. There is a real emphasis there on community, which is pretty huge as well. But I think in regards to that, it shows that the financial side of things, you have all these, like a game like Marathon, where the threshold for success is probably higher because, again, you think of that sort of Damocles in terms of the amount of money that Sony invested into Bungie, going back to the takeover days. There's probably a lot riding on Marathon, so they were probably expecting much bigger numbers. But we are in a shifting industry, and I think, you look at like the success of an Arc Raiders, where it does feel organic and spontaneous. That has come from, former DICE developers who left to do their own thing. You got the Finals, where, again, former DICE developers leaving to do their own thing. People are searching for those uniquely ambitious, but also authentically driven, uncompromising game experiences. And Wardogs, which I do anticipate being a success now, maybe not on the levels of like, like a Helldivers kind of, which I did want to mention there as well. Arrowhead's mantra is a game for everyone is a game for no one, and we're seeing that, played into practice right now. So even though, again, it's kind of dispiriting to learn that there are still these roadblocks being put in place, because it's kind of like a SpongeBob, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man routine?
Yes.
It is also encouraging that we're starting to see a change here, and I would hope that, the success of something like an Arc Raiders isn't inspiring game studios to go, we need to do another extraction shooter. It's more to the point of, well, we can do a Wardogs, in the sense of we're going to do our own thing. We're going to look for our own, what are we passionate about making? What game do we want to play?
Yeah.
And build from that.
And you've seen players show up for that stuff, like you mentioned. It might start a little bit slow, but if you get that strong word of mouth, if you get that community down, it will spread. I was thinking about Ready or Not last year, a different beast in terms of what it is, but again, a more niche product that has, done incredibly well on PC, coming to consoles, and then it does absolutely incredible numbers sales-wise, and that is from the goodwill that had been earned, that is from the word of mouth that had spread about the game's quality and how it was, dedicated to the bit. The same with Arc Raiders, like that smashed through after months of beta tests and after months of hype, and then everyone gets their hands on it and suddenly like it's this huge thing. It's pretty much the inverse of something like, I don't want to bring it up again, but a Concord or something, that says this is the next big thing, this is the next big thing. Oh no, it's not the next big thing, and now we need to cancel the entire thing and pull it off from storefronts. That gradual build, that word of mouth. I think we have seen, people will show up if you have a quality product, and that is, I'm seeing encouraging signs, Ewan.
The signs of life are there. And you know what the great big sign of life is?
Go on.
Giving us a little old bark.
Oh, it is.
Wardogs.